Hello, everybody. This is Garrett Cox again. I was kind of excited to get to do this research. Um, I'm from the area near Savannah, Georgia, and it has a lot of rich history. And even the surrounding counties, which where I lived, there's a lot of history there. But there is one battle during the Revolutionary War, the Siege of Savannah, and it took place in 1779 in the fall, October to be exact. And the British occupied Savannah at the time and had been so for about a year. Georgia was essentially the last colony to join the American Revolution. It seemed that there were a large number of citizens in Georgia who were still from England. They were not yet American, essentially. Um, they did not have that feel. They had just recently come from England and, were still very, very British. However, Georgia did join the American Revolution, and in 1775, the first fighting took place in an armory in Savannah, Georgia. Revolutionaries had broken into a powder magazine on May 11th in 1775. The Siege of Savannah is not always remembered as an important battle in the American Revolution because the Patriots lost this battle. It was an important victory for the British, who continued to control Savannah until the end of the war, and the Siege of Savannah was, in fact, this might be the most important contribution to history, sadly, that the Siege of Savannah was, in fact, the second deadliest battle in the American Revolution. Over 1,000 Allied Patriot soldiers were killed. French, Haitian, Africans, free Africans, and Native Americans, of course, Patriot soldiers fighting as well. And that's over 1,000 of them were killed compared to only around 50 British casualties. So it was a very one-sided affair. However, the importance of the Siege of Savannah in the history of Georgia, and more specifically the city of Savannah, lies in the heroes created during this battle. Figures such as the Polish Count Casimir Pulaski, Sergeant William Jasper of South Carolina, Count Charles Henri d'Estaing of France. I think I said that right. They became famous for their efforts in the Patriot loss in Savannah. There was even a group of free black Haitians, who helped cover the Patriots' retreat, that are enshrined with a statue in Savannah. This group of soldiers and others that were involved with this group went back to Haiti and later fought and won their independence from European powers later on in history. So that's an important part of this as well. These heroes have statues and forts named after them. Fort Pulaski, in fact, in its own right, is a great monument and an awesome site to visit as well. While Savannah was an important port city for the British to occupy for shipping and supplies, most of the fighting occurred in the back country of Georgia, and of course elsewhere in the colonies to the north of Georgia. One other thing about the British victory in Savannah, was that it gave Britain quicker access to Charleston, South Carolina, which was another important southern port city. In regards to preserving and maintaining monuments, which was part of the assignment here, Savannah has done a relatively good job maintaining and creating historical monuments and districts. It turns out that Savannah is, if it's not the largest, it's one of the largest historical districts in the United States, considering basically all of downtown Savannah with the squares is considered an historic monument, historic district. Considering the Spring Hill Redoubt, where most of the head-to-head fighting took place in the Siege of Savannah, there was an effort to create Battlefield Park, which was started in 2005. Archaeologists basically asked the project managers to do some research before they started actual construction, and they did find evidence of structures from the Spring Hill Redoubt and a fortified area there. So while basically all of the original redoubt was destroyed soon after the war for the railroad to come through Georgia, there was still evidence of the original structures that were present during the siege of Savannah. The archaeologists in charge of the research in Savannah began a large-scale search. Now, after this small discovery, they figured there must be more, and so they began a large-scale search around the whole city to see what other history could be recovered in Savannah. In 2014, Rita Elliott argued that this type of history is what needs to be brought to life. She said battlefield history connects the dots. She argued also that we can sit and have conversations and we can memorize and we can do all kinds of things in the classroom, but when we get out into the battlefield and connect the dots, that's what's important. While most of the former battlefield of the siege of Savannah is now covered in the urban landscape of the city, there are still very well maintained squares that dominate the city of Savannah. In Madison Square, there were discoveries of a defensive ditch that held many Revolutionary War artifacts. In other places, the battlefield has been covered up by a school and its playground. Still, there is a battlefield park which recreated parts of the Spring Hill Redoubt and serves as an educational, historical, and physical connection to the past. Savannah and Chatham County, however, still do not have any legislation regarding the protection of these types of historical sites, and there are more and more hotels and restaurants and other things housing being built on and around these historical sites. While it does seem on the outside that Savannah strives to preserve and display its history, there remain still these loopholes that could cause the city to lose, if not all, to lose some, if not all, of its history if the people allow it. Regarding field trips, the Battlefield Park in Savannah would serve as an awesome field trip destination. In fact, when I taught Georgia history several years ago near Savannah, we had a project, an optional project for our gifted students who could go and visit these sites, and it was a photo essay essentially. So to take pictures and then write some small snippets of information about some of these sites that they could go visit on their own. So that was an option for some people. So that's a cool idea. There is curriculum for students who visit the Battlefield Park, and there is even a mobile phone app that was developed by the former University Armstrong Atlantic State, which is actually my college alma mater. It's now been absorbed by Georgia Southern. But the professors and some students there developed this mobile phone app, and there are physical tours of the site as well. Thank you.